ready now.
In a world where video games are more popular than ever, but microtransactions sap your money at every turn. Patches allow developers to release games incomplete, and publishers pay for reviews. 2 years ago, one man said enough was enough, and he decided to take this review malarkey into his own hands.
Hello and welcome to TPE discussion number 3, a 2-year Q&A. It's quite surreal to think I've been making reviews every week since January 2018 even. Bloody hell, I'm selling myself short. But yeah, it's been an absolute blast, I've got to say. I absolutely love talking about games. As some of you all know, I've been reviewing them for the better part of a decade at least, if not more. And doing this whole video review part is even more fun, because I get to show you the game, tell you how I feel, and I always pride myself on keeping my opinions fair, honest, and in context. So to think it's been going 2 years, gained a fair amount of subs, I'm happy with the way the channel's going, and I've covered so many great games, some absolutely abysmal, but still fun to cover nonetheless. So for this sort of special 2-year occasion, I put out a Q&A request on Twitter, and a bunch of you lovely people sent me in some questions. I've got quite a few actually, more than 20. 21. Yeah, there is more than 20, that does count. But yeah, so without further ado, I think we should get cracking on. So the first question comes from my esteemed colleague, creator of the pixelempire.net, and my good friend Tom Clare, aka @pixelempire, who simply asks, who is your favourite gaming hero and heroine, and your favourite gaming villain? So my favourite hero is Cloud, although there's a bit of a caveat with that, in that it's only the original FF7 Cloud that I really like. Like, his subsequent appearances in stuff like Kingdom Hearts didn't quite do it for me. I mean, whoever wrote his dialogue, it just came off more as whiny rather than sympathetic. But in the original game, he's a complex, strong character who you can get the sense that he's dealing with a bit of PTSD, but he's really likeable, and I just think he helps drive Final Fantasy VII forward really well. And obviously there's his complex relationship with Sephiroth, and it's just, yeah, I rate him very highly. My favourite heroine is Regina, simply because some of her sass is just outstanding, and she's also a really likeable and strong female character. You know, she hunts dinosaurs without much of a sweat, and you know, that's disgusting, will forever live on in my mind as a classic line. And then my favourite villain's Albert Wesker, as sort of the driving force of Resident Evil. Obviously his representation's changed over the years, but I've liked him in almost every game he's been in, and I also think his best version is Resident Evil 5. He just chews up the scenery with almost no care, and it's just bloody brilliant, and I think he makes for a really good foil in any games he shows up in. So the second question comes from friend of the channel and absolutely fantastic content creator, Retro Game Rater, who asks, what games would you like to play again for the first time? Now I had to rack my brains a bit for this one, because I haven't really thought about this before, but 3 kind of similar games came to mind for me, and they're BioShock, The Last of Us, and Red Dead Redemption. I picked these 3 because once you sort of know their intricate stories, their twists, and their key events, I feel like repeat plays lose impact, and it's not quite as compelling, which is a real, shame. And I wish there was a way you could sort of go in and not know their outcomes and their twists beforehand. But that's not to say these games are bad, nowhere near. They're fantastic. It's just, I think repeat playthroughs have less of a, I don't know how you say it, they have, there's less incentive, I should say, to go back once you know everything about their story. Next question comes from my good friend Kim at WildestDream93, who asks, what's my favourite gaming original soundtrack? So I had a few different picks here, and honestly I couldn't choose between these 4, so I thought I'd just share all 4 of them with you, whether you want me to or not. But my first pick's Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. A really fantastic soundtrack that's got a few different kind of styles, techno and the like. But my favourite track's Heat Up, which sort of is kind of like Pursuit for Ace Attorney, where it sort of comes out when you're really close to the big discovery of the case. And there's lots of great tracks like that sort of are good listening, but also really help elevate certain moments and key situations. So it's a fantastic soundtrack in that regard. My next pick's Perfect Dark. This is more of a personal one because it's quite similar to the type of music I like, that synth and sci-fi heavy, but it's definitely rare at their sort of musical zenith for me. I mean, the menu theme alone's absolutely outstanding, and the tracks from there just get better and better. My next pick's Final Fantasy VII. I think a lot of you probably don't need me to explain why it's so brilliant, but tracks like the haunting City of the Ancients theme, the sort of heartbreaking Aerith theme, and just so many classic tracks to count. It's just one of the best of all time. And my last pick, which also proves I'm obsessed with the PlayStation 1, is Metal Gear Solid. Again, probably doesn't need a lot of explanation from me why it's brilliant, but just go listen to the menu theme and you'll know straight away, not the menu theme, the main theme. Go listen to the main theme and you'll know straight away why it's absolutely fantastic. So go give all 4 of these a listen. Well, after you finish this, of course. So question quattro comes from TriptheConsole at 8bit to now, who I want to thank again for making the fantastic intro and outro music for my channel. I really appreciate it, buddy. Anyway, his question was, Platinum Trophies. I gather you have a few, lol. Maybe. Which were you most satisfying to get, and which were an absolute pig? So, in the satisfying category, there's nothing absolutely ball-bustingly hard, but I have picked games which I find are really fun to unravel, and as a result you have to often play them multiple times and explore different routes. So stuff like Danganronpa, Virtue's Last Reward, Until Dawn, Detroit, I found them really fun to platinum because it sort of let you see every alternate path, and to me that's really satisfying. As for the pig category, these 3 came to mind for me. The first one was Wolfenstein The New Order on PlayStation 3. This was before I got a PS4 and I wanted to play it. I don't know how I managed to beat this game on its hardest difficulty, but I remember it being an absolute nightmare. It's just very old school, very tough, and I don't know if 2014 me was just more determined than 2020 me, but Jesus Christ. I actually replayed the game on Xbox One, and I just couldn't motivate myself to try and do... I think it's called Uber. It's just absolutely really difficult. The second one was Foul Play. Now this one's more disappointing because it was a very co-op heavy game that me and Tom played. Unfortunately the connection for the co-op was absolutely balked, and oftentimes we really struggled to find a game, and when we did it would then disconnect, and it just made the game way harder than it should be to platinum, and we nearly gave up at a couple of points, but perseverance wins. The last one was Shadows of Mordor. I just remember it having some really finicky and difficult achievements. Blasphemy. Having some really difficult trophies, and I just, I did it, but I didn't feel very satisfied by the end. So, to me, that's a pig of a platinum. This question comes from Blaine at ChaosSpreads97, who asks, what's your favourite topic you've covered so far? Now, a few sprung to mind for me. I absolutely had a blast doing the Acclaim marketing stunts, just because of how absolutely absurd they were. I just couldn't believe what they actually tried and pulled off. It was just insane. I also really enjoyed covering Final Fantasy IX, as I absolutely adored that game. And I also really had a lot of fun going through the Shenmue trilogy. I can't believe I've even saying Shenmue trilogy. Shenmue 3 is out and alive. It's just unbelievable. And lastly, I really enjoyed going through cancelled sequels, and I have a weird sort of fascination with cancelled games. I'm always intrigued to see how they got there, what happened, so it was a lot of fun covering that. So the next question, and it's quite a big one, comes from BlazeR at BlazeRaptor544, who asks the following. Favourite series, gaming character, genre, and storyline, as well as my thoughts on the Xbox Series X design, PlayStation skipping E3, the next gen, and my anticipated games of 2020. So I'm going to do quite hot fire answers here, as there's a lot to cover. Series, Resident Evil. Character, Cloud. Genre, survival horror. Storyline, The Walking Dead Season 1 from Telltale. Thoughts on Xbox Series X design. It looks a bit odd, but it also looks like a PC, so I assume this is intentional. PS skipping E3. They did it last year, and to be honest, I don't find E3 very fun anymore. Anyway, so it don't really matter. Next gen, I'm a bit skeptical. I'm hoping there's going to be better games and less mercenary practices like microtransactions and season passes, but I'm not hopeful. And as for anticipated games this year, Doom Eternal, Cyberpunk, Ghosts of Tsushima, Resident Evil 3 Remake, and although it's just come out, 2 Point Hospital was also one of them. Next question is from supporter of the channel and good friend Pat Curley at PatGoneMadR, who asks me the worst, most painful, absolutely horrid game you've ever played. If you could make a film based on any video game, what would it be? And what's your favourite game controller? Now, the worst is easily Spirit of Speed 1937, an absolutely atrocious racing game. Not best, film based on a video game, I'd go with Metal Gear Solid, and there is one in the works actually, so I guess that's cheating, but never mind. And my favourite controller is probably the Xbox One controller. I just love its comfort, its button layout, and it just feels really sturdy and easy to use. Another question from a friend on Twitter, Emma at DragonRider4923, who asks, thanks for tagging me. How about what was the first game you ever played? Quite a nice, easy question, really. It was Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped on the PlayStation 1. Me and my sister, we got a PS1 from a friend of hers, and it came with quite a few platformer-type games. I think there was Monsters Inc. and Spyro Year of the Dragon, another one of my favourites. But the first one I played was Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped. I did actually write an article for Game Tripper Matt. Highly recommend you follow him and check out his website. So if you want more info on what the game meant to me as both a child and adult, check out the article on that site. Bruno at BrunoFGX asked me, okay, simple one for you dude. Give me your top 10 of your favourite games from 2010 to 2019. Seen a lot of people doing it, now it's your turn. I like how Bruno writes, okay, simple one for you. The amount of brain shaking I had to do to try and think what games come out in that time actually nearly rattled my brains out of my brains out of my brain. Sound like Sid Vicious. My brains out of my head. So this is my best guess. I've probably missed things, but hey ho, such is life. So number 1, Witcher 3. Number 2, Horizon Zero Dawn. Number 3, Metal Gear Solid 5 Phantom Pain. Number 4, Mark of the Ninja. Number 5, God of War, the 2018 one obviously. Number 6, Ni no Kuni. Number 7, Outer Worlds. Number 8, Gears of War 3. Number 9, Danganronpa Trigger Happy Havoc. And number 10, Mortal Kombat 2011. Fellow gamer and wrestling aficionado Sean Halpin asks, since you play a lot of older stuff, that is true, what's an underrated game you think everybody should play that's been completely forgotten by the general gaming world? A true hidden gem. There's only really one pick for this question, in my opinion, and that's Chase the Express on the original PlayStation. It's basically Resident Evil meets Metal Gear Solid on a runaway train, and I personally think it's every bit as awesome as that sounds. It really didn't get much of a fair shake, and I don't know if part of that was because in America it had a terrible name, Covert Ops Nuclear Dawn. Chase the Express was way better of a title for that. But yeah, if you want a really cool Resident Evil style game, albeit without zombies and terrorists instead, I highly recommend it. Next up, fellow friend and content creator Bloggo's Pal asks, is there one game that really cemented your love of gaming? So I'm technically cheating and I'm going to pick 3 games, but it's my Q&A, so I make the rules. One of them I've already mentioned, Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, my first game, and I love it. Next on there is Spyro Year of the Dragon. I love it for a lot of the same reasons I love Crash. It sort of hooked me with its colours and its amazing platforming, and I grew up with it, loving it. And the last pick's Tekken 3. Now with Tekken 3, I was hooked and addicted to this game. I remember waking up early before I went to school to play it. I mean, that's just dedication. That'd be like me waking up at 4 in the morning so I can get a round of something in before I go to work. It's just unthinkable now. Another brilliant content creator here, Combo Broker. He asks, awesome, should be good. In that case, and it's my jam, what is the best worst game you've played? A title that most would quickly agree that is a bad game, but you cannot help but love. Now my pick for this, and I had to really think about it, is Need for Speed The Run. I will be the first to admit it is nowhere near the top of the Need for Speed list in terms of quality, but it is really, really fun. There's something to it, just the whole kind of way it works, the silly story, the over-the-top action. I think it's got quick time events, if I remember rightly, and I mean, it's just all absolutely absurd, but really fun. The next question comes from a really good friend of mine, someone who's really supportive of the channel, whether he retweets, gives me a shout out with some of the other great YouTubers out there, and I would just really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please check out his channel, because he is one of the best YouTubers going, in my opinion. It's G at G to the next level. Happy 2-year anniversary, Shane. My question is, since you and I are both Xbox fans, what are your thoughts about and hopes for the new Xbox Series X? What sort of games are you hoping to see on it? So as I sort of mentioned earlier, the design of the thing is a bit weird, but I also understand it's sort of looking to replicate a PC, and hence why it's shaped that way. What I'm hoping basically is that, one, it continues the excellent Game Pass service, which by all accounts it sounds like it's going to. 2, that it will add more updates to backwards compatibility, because it's one of my favourite things about the Xbox One, the fact that so many games carry over, and most importantly, more quality games. I'm really hoping Microsoft sort of let Rare out of their cage and maybe return to some of their classic IPs, as well as just make, some more of what they're good at, in a way. Not saying any of their stuff recently has been bad, but at least Sea of Thieves was something that isn't Kinect orientated, shall we just say. And the other thing is, I'm hoping Xbox sort of dig up some of their old IPs from the old Xbox, Crimson Skies, stuff like that. Maybe just bring some of these games back and give them new life with new engines and new power. The next question comes from someone who I've known quite a while on Twitter. He was one of sort of the first to follow and get to know me, so I do appreciate that. It's Kale at Howl11K. He says, always happy to help, mate. So number 1, what movie that you absolutely love are you disappointed never got its own game? And 2, what do you think is the worst gaming franchise and why? So my pick for a disappointing lack of game adaptation is Hot Fuzz. I don't know why, I just feel like that would have made such a funny, enjoyable and action-packed game. I mean, riding into the middle of that town centre when he's got the shotguns on his back. I mean, it's just absolutely hilarious. As for worst franchise, I really had to rack my brains to figure out something. But you know what? I'm going to go with the acclaimed South Park games. because let's face it, even though they have some comedic value at points, all 3 of the games that Acclaim made for South Park are bloody terrible, and I really need to get around to covering them sometime, but yeah, that's my pick. So the next question comes from Dr. Virtual, who I think's trying to help me lose all my subs. He asks me, what unpopular opinions about gaming do you have? Now, these aren't even probably unpopular opinions, but I know some people out there may think, what? What do you mean? And how dare you? But here we go. 1, tank controls are fine, but that's probably my love for survival horror clouding my judgment. 2, it's absolutely fine to like popular games like Call of Duty. Like, don't be afraid to enjoy them. At the end of the day, they're all games. And 3, I really don't see the difference between Xbox One and PS4. And I know that's probably going to rile up some console fanboys, but sorry, that's my opinion. Next question's from MaxoABWFR. Congrats 2 years, dude. Yay. Even though it's not truly on common questions, 1, which game would you like to see as a movie, and which movie would you like to see released as a game? And 2, if you had to make an album of your favourite songs, which ones would be inside? So part of this I did just answer actually, Hot Fuzz, as the sort of movie to game, but for a game to movie, my pick would be BioShock. Now I know this is one that actually has been in development up and down, and probably will never ever see the light of day now, but I just feel like it has such a strong story that it could definitely carry a movie, as well as being such a key part of the game. As for my album, I've put all my tracks on the right side. Now, keen-eyed listeners may notice all of these tracks have been playing in the background of this question and answer. Because, reasons, I don't know. I just like all these songs a lot. Yeah. Oh damn, it's cup of tea for me! Shane, congratulations on 2 years of solid content, mate. My question is, what was your main childhood console, and what inspired you to make reviews on YouTube? Do you have a favourite YouTuber / someone that inspires you? Thanks for the question, mate, and keep up the great work yourself, because your streaming is going absolutely brilliantly from inside sources tell me. There's a bit to unpack. My childhood consoles are probably the PS1 and PS2. They're the 2 I sort of grew up with and loved. Too many memories to count on both. My fave YouTubers at the minute are Retro Game Rater, G to the Next Level, Combo Broker, Slopes Game Room, Larry Bundy, and then as for streamers, the aforementioned Cup of Tea for me, yourself, and also Mean Machine Dean. Both of you guys are just fantastic streamers. And then lastly, my sort of inspiration for doing reviews, it's quite an early one, and one that might surprise some people, as I bash them quite a lot at the minute. GameSpot. All their sort of mid-2000s content was absolutely stellar. They had some great writers, Alex Navarro, Jeff Gertzman, and Greg Kasavin. And although sometimes I didn't agree with their opinions, I always understood why they felt that way. And I think that's been lost, in a way, since they all moved to Giant Bomb. But such is life. Next question's from my good friend Dan Driver, Swooper D. Congrats on the anniversary, Shane. Here's a question. What is your preferred game length? Arcade-like 1-hour games, 10-hour campaigns, 40-hour epics, or 100-hour worlds you can get lost on? So this is kind of a cop-out answer, but I just want the length to feel right. So, I've played games that are hundreds of hours long, like Grandia and Witcher 3, and they felt justified in their epic scale. And then on the other side of the coin, I've really enjoyed stuff like Max Payne and Panzer Dragoon Auto, which are probably, 1/10 of the length of those two, but they feel right. They don't feel bloated and overstaying their welcome, but not short enough to leave you unsatisfied. On the other side of the coin, the Order 1886 is brisk, and it feels like it doesn't really go anywhere, and Darksiders 2 completely outstays its welcome, so those are 2 examples I didn't really get on with. GTA Raj Gaming asks, Gran Turismo Hi-Fi Mode or Gran Turismo 2, and what are my top 3 movies? So for the first question, I'll say Gran Turismo 2, though I do think Gran Turismo Hi-Fi Mode is a really cool addition to the first game. And then as for my top 3 movies, Aliens is one I absolutely adore. The Terminator 2, I think I might be a fan of sci-fi, I don't quite know though. And just to break the mould, The Warriors, which is a really cool, underrated cult classic of a movie, and it's like brisk but awesome. My penultimate question comes from Dave Nolan, good friend of mine from Twitter. He asks, how about your favourite moments from your gaming bucket list? So for those not in the know, I basically took to Twitter and asked everyone to give me any game suggestions for Dreamcast, PS1 and PS2, in the hopes of exploring and playing classics I'd missed the first time round, either due to my age, lack of being able to get a copy, or just because I missed them. The guys on Twitter did not disappoint. Absolutely fantastic suggestions that kept me playing games for quite a few months on end until I retired it, in the hopes of starting to play Xbox and Nintendo stuff more. So as for highlights, experiencing Grandia and Skies of Arcadia for the first time, being hooked in Silent Hill's atmosphere, growing a huge army on Suikoden, finishing the list and retiring it with Final Fantasy IX, the whole tower block chase on Shenmue 2, and just a whole bunch of great games like Beautiful Joe, Devil May Cry 1 and Psychonauts, just to name a few. So we end this Q&A with one more question from another cohort of the Pixel Empire, Alan Passingham at Sir Clownfoot, who simply asks, why haven't you played HalfLife yet?
Ho 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 ho. The reason I have not played Half-Life is something deep, dark within me. It is because I am a terrible human being. Ho 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 ho.
Well, I don't know what come over me there. Anyway, thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question for this Q&A. I want to also thank anyone who's come on this 2-year journey with me, and I have no plans of stopping anytime soon. If you want to keep up with more reviews, as well as be notified when we hit that magical review 100, hit subscribe and the bell to keep notified, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.